Well, hello, it's Aisling Smith-Vance here, back again with another amazing interview today with Dr. James Leong from Singapore, who's one of our fantastic speakers at the NLP Global Summit. Dr. James, you're so welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ash. Thank you for the invitation. Great to be here.
Oh, it's really wonderful. We're absolutely blessed with the fantastic global representation that we have at the NLP Global Summit this year. So thank you for participating in that and for being here with me for this interview, so we can get to know you a little bit more, James, and let our members get to know you a little bit more also.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you so much, Ash. Okay.
So,
Hi, everybody.
Let's begin, James, by telling our members who you are and how you got your start with NLP.
Okay. Well, I started my career actually as a management consultant and executive coach. And back in the day, in the late 90s, was the first time I encountered NLP. It was a short NLP program by a trainer from London, and it intrigued me because it came from a business perspective. And I found that the tools are very relevant, especially in my work as a consultant and, of course, as an executive coach. Yeah, and of course, the rest is history. I got intrigued with NLP. I attended NLP University with Robert Dills, Judith Deleuze. Learned a lot from them, NLP and all. And of course, pick up timeline, Ericksonian hypnotherapy along the way, and it became some of my, could I say, very essential tools for coaching, actually. Yeah. So that's how I actually started incorporating NLP hypnosis. And then, of course, along the way, I also pick up personality profiling systems like the Enneagram from Dr. Claudio Naranjo. And I was quite amazed to find that like the mutant model, like when we were actually modeling Dr. Milton Erickson and his hypnotic patterns, they're actually patterns to model from Dr. Claudio Naranjo for his Enneagram as well. So if we were to be able to break everything into context, structure, and processes, definitely there's new models to be acquired out there.
Yeah, that's really, I love that. Actually, you know, it's something that I've spoken to a lot of the speakers about, James, is just that how we as NLP trainers, as NLP coaches, continue to upskill and to add more modalities that are very complementary of NLP to our toolkits to really enhance the experience that our clients have with us in the alongside NLP.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I myself view myself as a lifelong learner. Every year I mean, until the COVID hit, of course, I was out traveling to different trainers, learning from each other's. And of course, sometimes I would take something outside the NLP community to see what's out there. And of course, over the years, I've also went into the study of neuroscience. And I felt that it's very important because in my work, in my early days, I was privileged and honored to work with a group of psychiatrists, psychologists, and counselors. Yes. And working with them, I can understand where they're coming from. They're always asking for empirical data. You know, is there evidence? Is NLP evidence-based? Can it work for trauma? And when I'm able to, demonstrate to them, for example, for small traumas, able to help a client, okay, which they found difficulty in, help them to basically extinguish the fear. The next question they pop up would be, James, okay, I'm still not convinced. How long can it last? Yeah, and that got me thinking because in my line of work, coaching entrepreneurs and corporate business people, I discovered that especially when they hit setbacks. Like for example, two scenarios. One is people who are entrepreneurial, they start a business and they lost everything. All right, they lost their money, they lost their wealth, they lost their time, they lost their youth, and the business crash. And next thing you know, there's a domino effect to the extreme that they went into phobia. They went into how should I say? Okay, yes, PTSD.
Yes,
Post
post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah. So they went into PTSD because they lost everything overnight, and all those string of events created this trauma in them. And these are the most difficult clients I have ever encountered. And of course that got me deeper into the different modalities out there, and of course seeing their context structure and process so that I can replicate them in NLP, my NLP coaching work. And very importantly, with the advance of neuroscience, okay, I'm rather confident to say that neuroscience has, in a sense, validated a lot of things that we NLPers have been doing all along. Yeah. So it's just that in the past, the early creators of NLP, they weren't too interested in clinical data. All right, they were more interested in, okay, if I'm going to sit James down, I'm going to use whatever I have learned from the great therapies and come up with something that's suitable for that person. So it became rather difficult to quantify. Yeah, so those were the early days. But of course, with neuroscience and the understanding of neuroscience, neurology, personality types, and of course the understanding of trauma, I find it more easy. Okay, it's a lot easier to help somebody who's been traumatized to overcome their fears, PTSD, and of course to bounce back again. Yeah, and of course I mentioned there's a second group of people. We'll see them more often nowadays, especially there's this global gloominess right now, because of the war and the recession coming. And so there's a group of people that are in their 40s and who are let go, they're retrenched. And these individuals, some of them are quite sad. They're like shell-shocked, PTSD and all. At the height of their career in their 40s, they lost everything. They lost their job. They lost, and they attach so much identity to their work. When suddenly they lost the title, they lost the job, they become aimless. And the most, should I say, one of the cases I had, there was also domestic abuse. There was one gentleman who was retrenched for just before the COVID. And he stayed at home. He became a stay-at-home dad, and he lost all motivation. And when his wife started to badger him and ask him to go for a job and all, he found that the job was actually beneath him. He found that his skill set was no longer relevant, and he wanted that. Okay, I used to earn $10,000 a month. I want the same equivalent pay, which is difficult. And because of all that consistent so-called should I say the wife, keep asking him to get out of the house and all, one fine day he got violent, and there was domestic violence, of course, and it became a court case. So as much as I can understand his positive intention, it is totally wrong, domestic violence. Yes. All right. But I do understand that he's going through some PTSD. And of course, in my presentation, I'll be sharing from a neuroscience perspective how PTSD, all right, all this trauma affect our clients, and at the so-called at the anatomical level, in the brain structure itself. Yeah, how actually it has a domino effect, in a sense that how this fear cascade and it became like a giant snowball until it becomes a trauma.
Yes.
And for those individuals who are traumatized, how to help them get out of it.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'll be sharing more about this in the presentation itself.
Well, that was going to be my next question. You've already segued. Thank you. Like, what will our members learn from your presentation at the NLP Global Summit? So please, that's very, very interesting. And for anybody that's watching and is working in the field of coaching, this is what our clients are presenting to us with now. And this is what our clients will be presenting to us with in the next year, 2 years, as a result of the COVID, the layoffs, the recession, and so on and so forth. So thank you, James. This is a very, very poignant presentation by the sounds of it.
Yeah. So in brief, basically, I'll be going to the neuroscience of fear and trauma. So by having a good understanding of that, we can have a proper intervention. Somehow, I just feel that the old ways doesn't work anymore. I mean, just be frank. Just take a look around. For the longest time, we've been labeled by the academic community and the psychology community that NLP is a pseudoscience, and yet when we prove to them it worked, they ask for how long. Yeah. So, and of course, in my early days, I was very upset with this. In fact, when I did my MBA, my MBA dissertation was on how NLP can be used in executive coaching to bring down the level of anxiety in executives. Yeah. So and of course, very importantly, I have live subjects and I have control group. Although it's a small sample size, I back then I had 60 test subjects, which was actually my fellow MBA classmates, and another 60 were basically the control group. So I did a small little sample size, and I was able to see significant data that NLP works to bring down the level of stress. All right. However, that being said, I wasn't able to do a longitudinal study because it was a one-off thing. Longitudinal study means, do I track them for the next 12 months, for example, to see that if they were to apply the same techniques that I've taught them, is it able to maintain their level of mental health? Will they be more carefree? Will they be more stress-free, for example? Yeah. So that, of course, I would see. I would love to see more studies like this, longitudinal studies.
Yeah.
Yeah. In our community, evidence-based. Yeah. And that is all about should I say, making our what we do, making it relevant. My only fear is in the NLP community. That a lot of us fall into the old mode of thinking. You get certified, we train somebody else. We became like purveyors of personal development and NLP. And next thing you know, a lot of things sort of should I say, a lot of the early psychologists and people from the mental health in community, they learn from NLP. And next thing you know, they mix it with whatever psychotherapeutic processes they have.
Yeah.
And they did clinical studies. Okay, they did a longitudinal studies, and voila, they got results.
Yes.
But one look at it, sometimes you can tell, oh, this is a lot of NLP stuff. And then when you check the background of this person, he has learned NLP from someone, and he's integrated it. But now he doesn't call it NLP; he calls it something else.
Yes. Yes.
And he trademarked it. Yeah. So so my thinking is that it's about time our community become more evidence based. Otherwise, after a while, we'll be no longer relevant.
Yeah. I really like that, James. I think that's really important, and definitely, definitely the road that I plan to go down on my NLP journey. So I think we'll have a lot of interesting conversations in the future, because yeah, it's definitely something I'm very, very passionate about. Is the application from a neuroscience perspective and the connection between the two. I'm assuming that you completed your doctorate in neuroscience. Is that correct?
Um, no,
Ah.
my doctoral degree is actually in business administration.
Ah,
Uh, however, my dissertation, my dissertation for at my doctoral level is
yeah,
actually on using the Enneagram as a leadership coaching model.
yes.
Um, so I you can say that
You applied it in the
I'm
practice.
always trying to to
Yeah,
make it
bring
basically
it back.
I want to be able to to bring about our technology to the mainstream academia.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look at I mean, just to sidetrack a bit, for example, in the from the perspective of the psychiatrists, the mainstream academia, certain things are so-called studied, well studied, validated by by peer review and all.
Yes.
But things like MBTI, Enneagram,
Hmm.
to them is that I'm sorry, it's not admissible because there's no so-called evidence to prove that is accurate and stuff like that. And I understand where they're coming from. Like for example, if you talk to a psychiatrist and it comes to profiling, they will use one very popular tool, the five factor model, yeah, or commonly known as the Big Five. And it works well. It works well because especially when you are there's enough clinical, I mean, there's enough research on it. It's
Yeah.
validated. There's statistics to back it up. So I'm going along that road. You see, is it possible for us to have more statistics? And of course, yes. There are some researchers who, over the years, went through all the published NLP papers out there, and they call it a meta-analysis. In the meta-analysis, they find that in general, NLP does work. The only thing is, um, I guess the experiment that they put the subjects through, they need to be more vigorous. All right, they need to have a control group. They need to have a X number of test subjects, and if possible, what's the statistics, and is it longitudinal, for example? Yeah.
Yeah.
So all these things plays an important part. Yeah. So that is what I look forward to
Wow.
see in the community.
That's very interesting, James, and I think that I'm very much looking forward to your presentation because going back to what you were, your point on neuroscience, and I have a very good friend who's a doctor of neuroscience, and we speak about, NLP and the similarities and how it works together, and it's I'm excited for myself, and I'm excited for our members to watch your presentation to get more of that understanding that that this is something that really really stands up there with some of the best tools in the world, and I think that that's something that some people need assistance with understanding, like to see it from that perspective. So thank you for bringing that to the summit. I think that's going to be very helpful to a lot of people who are watching and rewatching these training videos. So why was it important for you to be part of the summit, James?
Well, I would like to use this opportunity uh, to share with fellow NLPers across the world. It's time to rally together and to have our first love, NLP. Have it validated, have it uh, not popularized, but make it evidence based, and so that the academia and also the psychology community would would respect us, you know. And also, I'm talking about the longevity of this field that we are so passionate about.
Mhm.
Because if we go back to the old days, like the 80s, my question is this, how many true innovators of NLP is out there right now?
Yeah.
Or the moment they get certified, okay, oh, it's time to sell another NLP program. It's time to churn out another batch of NLP practitioners. And it's like they're working in silos. Um, we we hardly communicate with one another.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and my school NLP is better than your school. Yeah. Oh, I belong to this school NLP. Yours is the old style. This kind of stuff. For me, I find that we can work together. We
Mm,
can have our own unique distinction. At the same time, when we come together, we become more there's more unity
yes.
instead of having a divided front. Uh, Instead of when we look at Wikipedia, NLP is a pseudoscience, and no amount of no amount of studies that we have done or papers that we have written is able to change that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we tried, the pioneers of NLP have tried to change what's on Wikipedia, and next thing you know, you get changed back.
Yeah.
NLP is still a pseudoscience. There's no evidence for NLP to work. And then when it worked, for how long? Yeah. And of course, when I look at other processes, I was amazed. I mean, if NLP started with modeling what works, right?
Mhm.
Uh, I have also found clinical data. There are actually psychotherapeutic processes that work out there with
Yeah.
very good evidence. So what's the strength? And I like to share a little bit about two modalities that's out there, and what are the strengths that we can actually adopt from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this will be in the presentation itself.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. And you're right. It like I feel so blessed and so grateful that my business partner Fran and I, decided to come together to bring this NLP Global Summit together. Because we have met some of the most amazing people in the world, and we're excited to grow these relationships and to see how we can collaborate with each other and learn from each other, because one of the consistent storylines across all of the conversations is all of our love for continuous learning and understanding and developing knowledge and adding to what we know with something else. So you're very much reflective of that, James, and it's wonderful to hear your passion for that clinical side of things, for that evidence-based procedures, and that is important. So if there are people who are watching this and have not yet, I couldn't imagine that there could be, but that they have not yet signed up to the summit, what would you say to them?
Well, I would look them in the eye and say that, hey, if you want results, okay, real results, come for the summit. All right, you'll be awed with the amount of unselfish sharing that every presenter bring to this presentation itself, to this summit. Yeah, look forward to seeing you all.
Thank you, James. Yeah, I love that unselfish sharing. It so is. Everybody has a different niche that they're working in, or a different area of expertise or knowledge that they've just found themselves in, and are wholeheartedly sharing that, and it's for free. So why would you not be signing up? And I'd be signing up to VIP so that you can actually get these recordings and watch them again and again and again, so that you really can keep to layer in that knowledge. As we all know in NLP, you layer in the knowledge and you just keep learning, and it sticks. Your unconscious mind just gets it. And sometime you'll be in a session with a client sometime in the future, you'll be like, that's just a nugget there that I picked up from the NLP Global Summit. So that being said, I do have a bonus question, James, that I like to ask all of our speakers, just because This is one of my
Mhm.
favorite things, is learning. What is your favorite NLP tool?
Wow, that's a hard one because I have at least five. Yeah. My first love, my first NLP tool that I really love, that is the NLP neurological level of alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It came from, of course, the originator is Gregory Bateson, uh, one of the pioneers that the early developers of NLP, we modeled him and all, and then we broke down the strategies. But what is impressive is my teacher, Robert Deuce, basically, after being influenced by Gregory Bateson, was
Mhm.
able to break down the logical levels of change or transformation.
Yes.
And I found that it's a very powerful tool.
Mm.
Of course, in the early days, like any new pattern that came about, there were a lot of dispute in the NLP community. If you remember back then, I still remember one of the co-founder of NLP. He was saying that no, this is not NLP. Logic and neurological level is an NLP because it's content based. And NLP should be content free, meaning we should only go for context, structure, and processes.
Yes.
Uh, and yes, it started off as that, but right now, almost every school uses has heard about the neurological levels of alignment or change.
Mm.
And one way or the other, they are using this process because
Mm.
you're able to, identify at what level the problem was created, for example.
Mhm.
At the same time, it helps it's a very neat coaching model that can be used in psychotherapy and coaching, especially business coaching.
Yeah.
And very importantly, with the framework, you can actually, put in the rest of the NLP patterns and tools and processes, you know, uh, with a good idea at what level, what tools are appropriate.
Mm.
Yeah. So that is one of my first love, so-called my
Yeah.
I really love the neurological levels. Yeah.
That's a very good one. That's really, really good. And
Mhm.
because what I love about this is when people are watching back the interviews, if they're like
Mhm.
me, they will Google what they've learned and be like, oh, that one, yeah, I could use
Yes.
that. I never thought about using it in that way before. That's very inspiring, or
Oh,
it's about taking these tips and bringing them forward into their lives, into their businesses, and in doing so, changing other people's lives.
oh yeah, yeah. I find that the neurological level is fantastic for business coaching as well.
Mm.
Yeah,
And so
although it started from an anthropological, background, um, but it's powerful enough to be used as a business coaching tool.
mm,
I mean, I'm very evident, it's very evident as a chartered management consultant that I use it a lot.
mm,
And if you and some of you who have attended some of my past presentations and other NLP presentation groups and all, I speak very passionately about the neurological levels because
yeah,
it really works.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So, James, that's it. We can't wait to see you at the Global Summit, to hear more about the connection between neuroscience and NLP, and to learn from your presentation. It's going to be an amazing presentation, and you've shared so much with us today. So, firstly, thank you for joining us at the NLP Global Summit, and thank you for joining me here today for this interview. It's been so enlightening talking to you and learning more about your passion and about your understanding and learnings within the NLP world.
Thank you, Ash. Thank you for this little introduction about me today. Thank you so much.
Thank
And I
you.
look forward to seeing you guys.
And
See
yes,
you there.
and anybody who hasn't yet booked in to see and attend the NLP Global Summit, do so now. click on the link below and grab your ticket today. Bye.